Leave it open so he wants to come in, you know. Okay. Anytime you say.
Red Auerbach, would you tell us what you think might be the secret of the Celtics' consistent success as a ball club?
Well, I could be cute and say winning, but I think it's a feeling of togetherness, and it's a desire to win. After a while, you find out it's more fun to win than to lose. And I think that's important.
More fun to win than to lose. I guess that makes pretty good sense in any sport or in business as well.
For example, if you lose, you got to go all summer explaining to people why you didn't win. So I used to tell them, hey, win, and you don't have any explaining to do, and then they'll all come out and pat you on the back. I said, so it's worth that little extra effort.
How does the mystique of the Boston Celtics affect their opponents? That's certainly something that makes them the Celtics, and certainly is felt countrywide, probably stronger here, but countrywide, I'm sure.
Well, a good example of that, many years ago in a pregame talk when I was coaching, I said to the players, I said, your palms a little wet? You're nervous? I said, you ought to be. I said, it's for the marbles. This is the playoffs. I said, but if you're nervous, your hands are wet. I said, just think how they must feel in that dressing room over there having to play against you guys. So we did have this mystique that was synonymous with winning and camaraderie and whatever, and they knew that to beat us, they didn't have to probe one weakness. They had to beat us as a unit.
Probe right across the board, and they probably still wouldn't find a weakness.
That's right.
Red, what qualities do you look for in a Celtic, both as a person in action on the court and off the court as well?
Well, first of all, you're not always right. You don't always have the wherewithal to investigate players thoroughly that you're going to draft. But years ago, it wasn't as difficult. And you'd call up the coach of the player and get a reading on the player as a person. And then you'd also call some of the rival coaches, the teams that this kid played against, and you get a reading on the kid as a person. Mm-hmm. Is he a competitor? What are his habits? What kind of reputation does he have? Is he coachable? Is he willing to pay the price, so to speak? And you get all these, and then you got to pray that nobody takes him before you. But today there are so many players all around, and so many things happen on college campuses that it's not exactly impossible, but it's improbable to get a good reading on so many players.
Mm-hmm. That makes good sense. But when you're looking yourself, what were the things that would bring a man onto the team without which maybe Red Auerbach would have to say, gee, I'm really not sure about this man?
Well, sometimes you try to fill a spot. You get a role. You need a forward, you need a center, you need a guard. So you look for that type of player. But if in your mind, the player you're going to draft or get won't really make your ball club anyway, so it's kind of a waste. Even though he fits a particular slot, he might not do it to the extent you want him to do it. So what you do at that point is draft the best athlete, regardless of position, and then try to teach him and get him to play the position you want. And if that fails, then you've just got to go out and make a deal and try to get one some other place. But rather than take a guy just because you need a guard or a forward, assuming you draft last, if you win it the year before, you draft last. So assuming that situation occurs, take your best athlete and worry about it later.
How do your players acquire the Celtics' pride and that feeling of tradition again, Coach? What must they be or do to acquire these feelings of pride and tradition?
Well, I think a lot of that is assimilated by association with the people who are already here. So when rookies come in, or people you get on a trade, they see what's here and they just conform and go right in with what is already happening. But basically that theory of pride or mystique is something that takes many years to build. And I stole a lot of it from the old New York Yankees with their pinstripe suit. And I've talked to Joe McCarthy many, many times. And I remember him telling me, Red, if you want to be a champion, he says, it helps to act like a champion. You dress like a champion, you feel like a champion, then you'll play like a champion. So we always had a dress code for years. Now it's kind of slackened a little bit because of times, but all the years that I was at the helm, we were very strict on a dress code. I remember Joe McCarthy telling me when these kids would come off the farm to play baseball, he would teach them how to tip. He would insist that they wear a shirt and tie all the time. And I've talked to Joe DiMaggio, Phil Rizzuto, Yogi Berra, friends of mine in my era, many, many times. And they told me about all these things. So then when I got into the coaching in the professional level, I carried it forth, and I was very glad I did. And nobody could tell me that it doesn't play a part. It does. It doesn't score a point, but it's there. It's an intangible. It's all part of the Celtic pride, this feel you have. I think the fans are largely responsible, the way they react. Although, to be perfectly honest, it was many years before the fans here appreciated us the way we were appreciated throughout the country. They didn't realize what they had here for a long time. They really didn't, because we were overshadowed by football, baseball, and hockey. And we were, like the last to come in the area, so to speak. But we've overcome it, thank goodness.
I think perhaps that's the case, Coach. As regards your individual players, what do you say it takes to be a winner, whether it be for the Boston Celtics coach or for the Patriots or the Red Sox or the Bruins? What does it take really to be a winner?
Well, to be a winner, a ball player has got to be willing to sacrifice personal statistics, personal goals to the winning of the team, to the team concept. Now that sometimes, in today's modern way of negotiation, can be affected in his salary, because a lot of managers and what have you, they look at statistics and they say, well, you batted so much or you scored so many points per game, you should get so much money. And that's wrong, because you don't know when you got them in garbage time or how you react under pressure or whatever, you see. So that's wrong. But the Celtics have always tried to pay the players commensurate with their contribution towards winning. Now, as an individual, it's more fun to be part of a winner. You've got to be willing to pay the price. Nothing comes easy. I don't care how much natural talent you have, whether you're a Larry Bird or whatever. Larry Bird works as hard as anybody in practice. And he's always improving his game. He knows he's going to have down periods during the season. He knows he's going to get in some kind of slump, whether it's a reaction slump, whether it's a shooting slump, whether it's a running slump or something. But as individuals, if you want to be winners, you've got to make up your mind, you've got to be coachable, and you've got to pay the price, and you've got to work at it. This is not just conversation, this is fact.
Got to be coachable. I enjoy that word. In other words, I think that means you've got to listen, doesn't it, among other things?
Well, it means you not only got to listen, you got to react. See, if you don't react, I remember when I was coaching, if I told a guy to do something, the worst thing he could say to me was, why? I want a reaction. Mm-hmm. If it bothered him, see me later, we'll talk about it. Then I'll give him the answer why. But you don't have time for that during the game. Boom. React.
What level of intensity, Red, do you expect from your ball players?
Well, you got to be realistic. You can't have extreme high intensity all the time. I think it's a form of motivation. I think it's the job of the coach to motivate them to the point where their intensity is real high. But on certain occasions, they can get tired of listening to your voice as a coach, and they can be self-motivated to a large extent. So a coach has got to be smart enough not to overcoach and not to get to the point where the players are going to say, "Oh, gee, he's yapping again." You know, wow. He's got the every once in a while. The trick of coaching is communication. That's where it's at.
And sometimes not communicating itself, Red, can be a form of communication, I would take it.
Sure.
Knowing when to be
Exactly,
quiet.
just like I've always said. Many times the best deal is no deal.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people in sports make trades to satisfy their own ego or just to make a trade rather than actually helping their ball club.
A few minutes ago, you mentioned something, Red, that I was going to ask you about, and I'd like to follow up on that just a bit further. In almost any occupation, a man or a woman will now and then go into a slump, and I expect, as you suggested, it even happens with the superstars on the Boston Celtics. What do you do to help somebody out of such a slump, especially if it seems to be perhaps a little longer than perhaps a game or two, something like that?
Well, right now, I don't do very much. I leave it to Coach Fitch. That's his job. When I was coaching, I think the way to approach it is every case is different. Every individual is different. I remember when Bob Cousy would go into a slump, he'd come over to me and said, "Something's wrong." He said, "Will you watch me?" And I'd watch him and I'd point out one or two things. And he'd say, "Fine," and he'd wait till after practice. He'd work on it an extra half hour, an hour, or something like that, just to snap it. Because it doesn't take much to throw you off. But basically, if a kid's got a slump, you got to build up his confidence and keep his confidence. It's like, I remember a guy hit 1 for 15. Now, if he stopped shooting, the guy guarding him is going to just ignore him and play everybody else because he's not going to shoot anymore. He's not hitting. So you got to tell him, as long as you're going to be a professional, as long as you're going to play ball, you've got your shot, take your shot. If you miss 50 in a row, we're going to lose. But that's the way the ball bounces. So you got to approach that slump with confidence that it happens to everybody. Shake it off, laugh it off, whatever, and get rid of it.
The thing is to know that if you keep doing your job, the slump is going to pass away, probably just the same as your hot streak may pass away on the individual basis.
No question about it.
Yeah.
No question about it. It's a rhythmic thing.
Red, we have a good number of men and women who are working hard now to qualify for American Mutual's Sales Congress to be held in Cancun, Mexico next March. I can assure you that they, like the Celtics, face the toughest kind of competition. For somebody seeking a goal like this, what words of advice or encouragement might you have? These aren't, of course, professional athletes, as you well know, but they are people in very tough competition. I'm sure they face psychologically many of the problems that professional athletes face. And with this goal in mind, would you have anything to say to these American Mutual people who would like to achieve their goals much the way that the Boston Celtics do?
Well, they got to say to themselves, this is my year, this is my time, I'm lucky. I'll work at it, but after a while you get tired of hearing everybody, hey, work at it, and you know, they know all that. So you gotta adapt a different approach. Be loose. Be lucky. And it's good to be lucky. And after a while, those things help, because the other things are stereotyped. They're going to do that anyway. They know that if they spend the time, there's going to be certain results. But sometimes if they spend the same amount of time, they may get double the results. So you got to have a little luck. You got to have the proper timing, and you got to think a little bit. Have them stay by themselves and think it out before they make moves. Just don't go through motions. See, sometimes they'll get up and they'll do this and they'll do this and they'll do this. If they could just sit down and spend some time by themselves, go to a movie, watch TV, and then come home or whatever, and they sit and they think. I say, this is what I want to do. And they approach it fresh. Every once in a while, you got to approach the situation fresh. You can't. It's like a ball player getting stale, or it's like a coach over-coaching. You know, you keep hitting them in the head all the time. After a while, it doesn't hurt anymore. They don't feel it. Mm-hmm. It only feels good when you stop. So that's what I'd suggest.
Sort of like taking a mental deep breath, a little bit of a reassessment.
There's a comparison to what we do and what you do. It's a
comparison to selling, whether it be insurance or other products,
oh,
right?
Yeah.
How would you make that equation?
Well, you're dealing with people. When you're dealing with people, you're dealing with egos, with personalities, maybe on a different level, but you're still dealing with people. And when you're dealing with people, you've got to study their likes and dislikes and so forth. And I've always said it's easier to study the boss than have the boss study everybody else. So if you're a smart employee, you just go ahead and study the boss and know his peculiarities and his likes and dislikes, and you know which way to move. Just like my players used to study me. I told them, I said, you study me because I got an ego, and I'm a character too. I get tired of listening to the fact that you're a character and you like this and don't like this and so forth. Hey, I'm the same way. But I'm the boss, I write the checks. You better smarten up.
There you go, the boss writes the checks, no question about that. What role does desire play with a young player, somebody just coming into the Boston Celtics or some other organization?
Well,
is that by itself? It certainly is not enough.
I think so. I think desire, everybody's got desire. Some have a little more, and they'll pay the price a little more. They'll work a little harder. But everybody wants success, and they'll work for it. So the desire to be good is there.
If they really want it, though, there's no other answer, is there?
That's right. They'll work
because there's going to be some other dude down 2 or 3 steps who's a little bit hungrier.
Always somebody looking over your shoulder. Yeah.
How are we doing? Red, what level of intensity would you say that you expect from your players? Mm-hmm. How do your players acquire that Celtics pride and feeling of tradition that everybody knows, of course, is so much a part of the Celtics? What must these players be, or what must they do? What suggestions would you make, Red Auerbach, to somebody who would like to become a winner, whether it be playing professional basketball or in some other aspect of professional life?
Nod your head a couple times now for a couple reactions.
I see.
You ought to disagree.
I was going to say, are you crazy? How long you been in the business, Red?
Hey, you salespeople, why don't you make your own playoffs so you can go to Cancun, Mexico next fall?
I'll be next Next March.
Next month, I'm sorry, okay. Do it over. Okay.
Can I lay a line on him and say, would you have a parting word for the American Mutual sales force, if that's okay with you, Red?
Yeah. Hey, you salespeople from American Mutual?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Hey, you salespeople from American Mutual, why don't you make the playoffs so you can go to Cancun, Mexico next March?
All right, Red. I don't think so. Maybe a light raincoat if you got one.
I got one, but I understand it's going to be warm coming up, though. We're all finished.
This?
Mm-hmm. Love to get that.
Is it cold out?
Light ones. Up here. It's for you.
Yeah. I'm like towards that.
This one here. Can I just grab this?
Come bring this.
There you go.
Maybe two. I was listening to it as it went along.
Yeah, he spoke so softly, but you had no hassle picking it up, huh?
No, as he started off softly.
Yeah.
But as he got into it, he started getting excited and it'd go up and I had to turn it down.
Oh, yeah.
And then he'd start the next question. So
Red's cat.
That's the Celtics cap.
Is it?
No, Celtic. I
What's
got a
his
guy
name?
at home looks
I
just
don't know.
like you, but he can't shoot free throws.
They had mice around here, so they brought them in
Oh yeah.
to get rid of them.
I gotta understand how the mice around here.
He looks like he's doing all right on the mouse patrol. You know what I'm looking for, Mike? An eagle.
Yeah.
Eddie, we got an eagle any place in the room that you know of? I'd be surprised if we don't. There must be one of almost everything here.
Collects letter openers.
Yes, we had a...
And this credenza. Nameplate.
They got it on that one on
See one behind his,
cigars.
see one behind his desk there?
Oh, yeah.
There's two Celtics caps. What's the Capitals? He started with the Capitals? or-
Yeah, he coached them.
Did he?
That was the first team he coached. Coached them for a couple of years, and he went to Tri-Cities, and then he came here. Tri-Cities for a year, I think it was.
Sensational
What was
headlines,
the
though.
headline?
Headline, Celtics or Bush, or Celtics or Bush. One of
Says
those
Philadelphia Sixers, and
Yeah.
then they had a colon, it says Celtics of Bush.
flew down the line. Like they talked about Brits and Argies, you know.
Yeah.
Celtics are Bush?
Yes.
Really?
It was on the dunk play, I guess.
And the Bradley dunk?
Yeah.
Alley-oop?
The worst one I thought, when they did about the,
Make for great cutaways, all this stuff.
Did you do the, oh, I guess you're gonna turn to them, the letter openers, because we can use all of this as opening stuff, you know, the man of many interests and so forth.
there's red on round ball, that's where that's from.
Yeah.
TV thing at halftime, we used to have,
They do the animation with that little thing right there?
I don't know, Auerbach.
That's really nice when it gets delivered, isn't it, huh?
No, they're in the city. Assuming it was postmarked Boston. So. Like there's a Celtic pride drawing over the bar. Also, it's gonna be-
Yeah, after last night's game, I wouldn't doubt that. That was weird how the machine wouldn't rewind with that first tape.
Or remote control.
No.
Second tape would.
Yeah. Figure that one out.